merchandise. Specifically, bootleg merchandise. It's something I've talked about on this channel before. See? Look. In that video, I talked about bootleg versions of FNAF toys. Specifically, rip-offs of the figures and plushies by Funko. But we all know another popular series known for its marketable characters, Annoying Orange. I guess Plants vs. Zombies too, but I like Annoying Orange. Just like last time, there are a lot of avenues to go down when talking about unlicensed products. So I went on AliExpress and spent even more money on cheap plastic garbage. Although this time I'd say the situation is a bit different. FNAF is a series with a ton of official merchandise, but PVZ merch isn't nearly as widespread. Some of the toys this time don't have an official equivalent.
Hey, how's it going everybody? Fast Food Toy Reviews here, and today we have Plants vs. Zombies!
They're just low-quality, unlicensed toys featuring characters from the game. So as it turns out, some of the bootleg action figures from the last episode actually contained lead in the paint. So wearing gloves was actually a really smart idea. If only I didn't burn them and then inhale the smoke, my lifespan is now in half. So let's open some toys. First package, we got, any second now, a Plants vs. Zombies Lego set. Unfortunately, it only came in a cheap Ziploc bag rather than the nicer looking box displayed on the website. I'm going to cry. But
if you play games without Wiimote, you're missing out. It's so easy, anyone can do it. Mods let you
But don't worry, guys. This isn't Plants vs. Zombies. It's Plants War versus something. While the FNAF Lego figures were just minifigs, the Plants War set actually had a full build. That being the house in Neighborville where the games take place in. At least, whenever PVZ2 is in the modern day. Anyways, I guess I gotta build this now.
Cut when this is done.
That took about 3 hours, by the way. Building the set was fairly straightforward. The instructions look virtually identical to that of LEGO instructions, with only a little bit of confusion in regards to color, as there were 3 different shades of green, all of which looked very similar in the instructions. So here we have the finished set, and honestly, it looks surprisingly good. I bought this set specifically for the characters, but the designer here at least put some effort into the actual build. The house has some depth to it, and the lawn itself can shift and change into a combination of other forms for maximum playing power. The only thing I'd say looks genuinely bad is the terribly printed Plants vs. Zombies logo that you put on the front of the house. Wait, I thought this was Plants War. So let's go through the characters, starting with the zombie. First, we got a pirate zombie. These are the regular guys you'll encounter in Pirate Seas. But of course, it's still fitting here because of the portals in the modern day. While I'm not the biggest fan of the hat the zombie uses, the figure as a whole looks pretty accurate to the game. You could tell that whoever designed the printing put some actual effort into capturing the important details. Too bad the hat makes him look homeless. Next, we have another typical zombie variant, but this time from ancient Egypt. It's about the same as the other one quality-wise, but yeah, pretty straightforward. I like the look of it. Next is DJ Zombie from Neon Mixtape Tour. I absolutely hate this zombie in the actual game, and here I still hate him, but for different reasons. Usually he looks like someone's out-of-touch dad, and here he still sort of looks like that. But I feel like the tiny mic blends in too much with the beard, and the lack of microphone wire completely removes the gimmick he had in the actual game. He looks fine next to the rest of them, but I think they really could have chosen a much more deserving character, like the Bloom Zombie. For this next one, I didn't recognize it at first. For a second I thought it was some sort of weird fan character, but they're actually called Bass Zombies, and they're once again from Neon Mixtape. Specifically, Neon Mixtape on the Chinese release of PVZ2, as there's a ton of unique content that game has. Design-wise, again, it looks perfectly fine. I just find it very strange that they chose this specific zombie over any one of the other ones in the game. Personally, I'd love to see a Gargantuar Big Fig, or again, the Bloom Zombie from earlier. Here's a regular pilot zombie from Lost City. Once again, a nice looking figure. The detail on the jetpack and accessory look pretty nice. You might have noticed that his arm looks a little weird, and that's because I somehow managed to lose it before getting to that part of the build. Much like last time, the minifigs didn't have the arms already put in them, which makes them a lot easier to lose. So I had to steal an arm from Freddy. Personally, I like his goggles. Here's the football zombie. I know his official name is technically All-Star Zombie, especially because this set seems to be based on Garden Warfare, but the only thing we really know about him is that he used to play football. So I will continue to call him that for the rest of time. I think this is genuinely one of the better figures here, only brought down by the lack of dual molding and the limitations of Lego pieces. He isn't entirely shaped right, but I get that they would have had to custom mold a new body type, which would have been a hassle. And the same can be said with the helmet, being taken from the classic LEGO space sets. Next we got someone who isn't in PvZ2, the Engineer Zombie. He's one of the classes in the Garden Warfare games, and this man looks like a certified goober. Like the football zombie, a custom mold would be fitting for this particular character, but you can still tell who it is because of his goofy little face. Continuing with our Garden Warfare theme, next we have the Scientist Zombie. And another one. The second one is just the default scientist from Garden Warfare, but with this other one, I looked and couldn't find anything. None of the alt costumes look like that, and there isn't a zombie like this in PvZ2. The closest I could find is this custom design from DeviantArt, but there are still some massive differences. As for the designs themselves, I actually really like both of these. I'm not sure why they both had to be included though.
I really like the gun this guy was designed with. He has like a little pair of binoculars, and it's connected to two fire hose pieces.
I like that the zombies were all given specially printed legs. However, they also tend to have these ugly noticeable edges, which are especially noticeable with the feet printing. Next we got the foot soldier from Garden Warfare. The attention to detail, especially the Z-shaped belt buckle, is a fun detail, which makes it even weirder that the other Z on the arm was replaced with a generic badge. Pair that with a completely different and honestly worse looking weapon, and we have a really weird character. Here's a punk zombie, once again from Neon Mixtape. Besides him being one of the nicer looking characters, there really isn't anything to write home about, besides the really nice looking mohawk piece. Here's some Jurassic Marsh looking guy, but honestly I'm too lazy to check. This is one of the nicer looking uses of leg printing. The seams around the sides don't look too noticeable with this one. This one also has printing behind the legs, a lot like the Funtime animatronics from last time, which I might remind you, LEGO doesn't do this, because the printing would erase over time if you sit your characters down. At least, that's what I'd assume. And if the real LEGO isn't opting for it, I don't see why these bootlegs with infinitely worse printing would choose to go for it. Here's... who even is this guy? I don't know, probably some explorer or something. It looks fine. The next one is a regular cowboy zombie. The instructions specifically told me to give him this Zomboni build, which is weird to me. Why would you include these more obscure characters like the base zombie, only to include a Zomboni without the actual zombie that goes along with it? But alright, sure, the cowboy can have it. The instructions also told me to add this piece, but if I did that, it would be impossible to fit the character in properly. Definitely a weird choice, but I'm honestly surprised this was the only mistake in the instructions. Here's a disco zombie, specifically the far future jetpack variant from PvZ2. The printing is about as solid as usual, but whoever was making these was either too lazy to make actual LEGO Afro pieces, or didn't know they existed, because the hair given is just unfitting. I find it especially weird too, because like the instructions, this is the only glaring issue here. And lastly, here's the breakdancer zombie. I really wonder what the creator's favorite world is. But yeah, it looks okay. Not gonna lie, I'm actually pretty impressed with the amount of minifigs here. This set me back $26, and honestly, it might even be worth the price. Choosing modern day was a smart location because it allows all sorts of zombies from the entirety of the franchise. And the zombies were all consistently pretty good. Then we have the plants. The plants range from decent, like Sunflower,
I think overall this one looks pretty good,
and Pea Shooter, to some of the most brain-dead designs they could have possibly thought of. Why does he look like that? They really took the wall part of Walnut and just ran with it, huh? The rest of the plants aren't nearly as heinous. Potato Mine is simple but effective. Doomshroom looks a bit funny, but alright overall. Chomper is a bit too big and tall and also just doesn't look very good. And Gloomshroom is perfect perfect if you remove one of the pieces to make it more accurate to the game. I think the builds for the plants were the most fun part about building the set, as you get to see just how all the pieces come together to form the characters.
It doesn't really line up. Looks like I'm never getting that back again.
And then there's Bloomerang. This design looks nice, pretty game accurate even, but using these little arm pieces was such a bad design choice. You can see I lost a couple of them already.
Yeah, if you accidentally push it a little bit, it goes flying and you're never gonna see it again.
This about wraps it up for this one.
You my little boo thing, so I'll give a hoot what you do. Say, girl, I know you a little
Flying and you're never gonna see it again.
This about wraps it up for this one.
It's time for action figures. More toys. Yes, I love toys. 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 I love toys.
Man, I sure hope these are high quality. Oh, so here we have some of the cheapest plastic garbage I've ever laid my eyes on. Oh yeah, worse than the Ryan toys. Each and every one of the toys in this set has one simple play feature, a lot like the kind of toy you'd find in a Happy Meal. The first one is this pea shooter. You could see with his bag of different projectiles, the gimmick is that the pea shoots. Wow. There's also zombies that have removable headgear, so there are all sorts of possibilities with the cones, buckets, and regular zombies. Next we got Walnut. While he isn't as terrible as his Lego counterpart, his design seems to be based off of his PVZ2 plant food effect. The gimmick with this one is the button on the back that changes the expression of its face. I imagine you can use the gimmicks to play a real-life toy version of the classic tower defense formula, with each of the 3 expressions corresponding to a different state of the walnut. Next we got a sunflower. This is one of the more well put together toys here, at least looks and material wise, but the play feature sucks. There's a suction cup at the bottom and you can push it down and have it jump. Squash has the same gimmick, but at least with him it actually makes sense. There's also a second one. Here's another zombie. This time it's the captain from Pirate Seas. And it even comes with a parrot you can put on the hat. But oh no, what are we gonna do? The zombie's trying to eat our brains. Luckily, our next plant is Peapod, and the gimmick here is exactly what it does in PVZ2. Has 5 pea shooters, which means it can shoot 5 projectiles. It also takes a surprising amount of force to hit the button. Next, we have a Buckethead zombie. More zombies is always good, I guess. Not to mention, this also doubles as a cone and normal zombie, because of its removable bucket. Next we have Jalapeno, and somehow it's the worst gimmick yet. The top of its head doubles as a hidden button, and when you hit it, the eye slightly pops out.
And I noticed something. At the bottom, it says, copyright Electronic Arts 2018.
Next we have a Raw zombie. It came with a sun staff since that's what he holds in the game, but it doesn't go in his hands, so I don't know why it's even here. He's another specialized zombie, so we can't take his hat off, which does make sense, but is also a little disappointing. Next we have another better zombie, Gargantuar. I didn't notice until later, but he actually comes with a little imp that you can launch straight into the abyss and never see again. And to defend from it, we have Pepperpolt. As you'd imagine, the gimmick is pretty self-explanatory. The Polt goes back and can shoot a ball. The same can be said for Cabbage Polt, which is the next toy. Switching things up though, the next plant is Bonk Choy. In the game, Bonk Choy does a decent amount of damage, but is severely limited by its range, only being able to attack zombies in arm's reach. But the thing with this one is that arm's reach isn't very long.
Oh no, it is a zombie. Bonk Choy, do your thing.
Next we have a toy that actually makes some amount of sense. Squash. His gimmick is yet another suction cup that launches him into the air. But unlike something stupid like Sunflower, Squash actually does jump in the game. I still don't know why they chose to do this. Chomper's next. And at first I just thought the gimmick would be that it bites zombies, like in the games. But I was surprised to find out that it actually shoots these little discs. This makes about as much sense as the Sunflower. Next up is Bloomerang, one of the more well-known PVZ2 plants, but he looks a little off. That's because you can actually take the top of his head and use it as a flying spinny thing. This is probably the most cursed gimmick, but also strangely my favorite. Lastly, there are a couple more Polts, nothing too special, just the same mechanic we've seen over and over again, except they all shoot at slightly different angles. I think these wannabe McDonald's toys are a real contender for the worst toys I've ever seen, with the only competition being the Mexican bootleg FNAF toys that have lead in the paint. paint. Now we have our final set of toys, the most popular of PvZ merchandise, plush toys. Chances are, if you have PvZ merch, then it's probably a plushie. In other news, the first plush is Bonk Choi, and like his figure counterpart, his arms are really short and glued to his head. Maybe we can help him. Oh god, there his legs. Anyways, here's Garlic with wings. Why? There also isn't a Garlic plush design that doesn't have wings. Why? It turns out that the Garlic plush design comes from 2010 fan art someone made picturing plans from a hypothetical PvZ sequel, as PvZ 2 was released in 2013. Well, it got pretty popular, and ended up spreading around as a fake leak. A certain plush manufacturer, Linzen, caught wind of this, and ended up making this plush design, which got copied to oblivion, and now every Garlic plush just has wings. So if you want a game accurate one, you gotta snip those things off. That's actually pretty cool. Get out of here. Next we got, oh god, what did they do to Snapdragon? Why is he so pale? Does he have a disease? Maybe that's why he looks depressed. Next we got Fat Beat, and he just looks straight up pissed. His leaves are noticeably smaller, and he's a little more red than the purple tone he has in Neon Mixtape. Next we got, I think this one's a Chinese surveillance drone. I don't want to look at it anymore because it'll probably steal all of my personal information and leak my address. Next, we got Red Pea Shooter. Why is it red?
I get that snow pea is a thing, which is just blue pea shooter with the cold properties, but fire pea is a thing, and it doesn't look like this.
Doing a little digging, it's entirely possible that this design was made before the release of PvZ 2, as the simple recolor has a lot more in common with Flaming Pea from Plants vs. Zombies Adventures. That, and also the pattern was directly copied from Pea Shooter, so it very well could have just started as a reskin.
And lastly, we have this.
I honestly have no idea what this is, unless it's exclusive to PvZ 2 Chinese, which is entirely possible, but I'm pretty sure this is an original plant. That would technically make it not a bootleg, but my god, it's deserving of being here based on looks alone. And that's it for the plushies. So just to recap, the Lego set, while inconsistent, had a plethora of characters to play around with, and actually had an environment. The toys were terrible, and were definitely not worth my $40, and the plushies were simultaneously the best and most cursed things I've ever seen. Now, what do I do with these now? Last time, a lot of people, children, were upset that I chose to destroy these horrid objects, as I instead could have given these lead-ridden bootlegs to homeless children instead of giving myself lead poisoning. Sorta like Mr. Beast, but instead of helping the blind see, I give children cancer. So this time, I think I'm gonna put them to use. Let's have some fun.
From AI stock footage features, AI image translators,
Oh no! A zombie has broken into my kitchen, and I have to defend myself. Peapod, do your thing! Man, this sucks.